Hey YouTube, Enigma here. Alright, some of you might know that I'm pursuing a master's in landscape architecture at Iowa State University, and I would like to share with you a garden I've been working on called the Unidentified Fairy Garden, for it is where I saw my first UFO orb of light back in 2008 over the flood of 8, when Cedar Rapids was flooded. So that was an interesting year for me. That's when I really started seeing these objects like appearing around my Boy Scout camp and around my house, and I just started getting curious from there. So I devised a plan to kind of like come up with an experiment to coax these UFOs down into a certain space, to say that this space you are allowed to go into the space. Of course I have no control over what they do, but to kind of test how much they respect people's personal space. So this image shows what it looked like before I built my gate, and it leads down to a creek bed, and I just found leftover stones from a prior landscaper on our house, whoever lived in our house before, and dug those up and started placing them down, clearing out kind of the brush and putting these steps down. Before we could actually build the gate, my dad wanted to figure out how committed I really was to this kind of project, so I did a drawing to kind of show what it would look like, and he said, okay, I'll pay for the materials. And from there, this drawing kind of shows it's a fusion of like Japanese and kind of a Roman style garden gate. In Japanese you would call it a torty gate, and it would have like tiki torches at its end and maybe a hummingbird and feeder in the center. And then yeah, it just shows this kind of threshold space into like a sacred space, supernatural space. So this is the actual gate. From here, this gate, we stained it. We had to make sure its foundation was at least 4 feet because of the frost line. So it's been there for a while now, a couple years. And I wanted to originally design it to where it's interlocking, but my dad wasn't, like he said, let's just build it the easy way. So we just used nails, and but we did have the cross beam where it just kind of it had 2 notches, and then we put it down between the 2 poles. So that was interesting. I had to get a high ladder for that. And then the top part, the roof kind of aspect to it, sits right on those 2 poles pretty much, and then it has 2 birdhouses on its end. And then I found some stones to kind of put next to it, some red limestone, and then it goes down to the path. And these are the steps. It leads down, about 25 feet. It's kind of a winter view of it. And then, I put some Japanese kind of style lanterns that actually I do light up at night. So it's really interesting to go down there at night. So yeah, rarely do I go down there at night, waiting for the UFO to appear, because, I sat out there for like an hour on my island, but no more than that. I mean, it gets a little creepy. So, but maybe I have to keep trying, and maybe that's what it wants. So I got a camera now, so a nicer camera, so I'll be able to capture it hopefully. But going down there at night, I don't know. So that lantern you saw actually sits on top of this little hobbit-like house thing I made for chipmunks, and they actually do live in here. I've seen them go in and out, feed them once in a while. Haven't been able to get them on camera yet, but I'll try to. And then this image kind of shows like the overall view of the garden. So pretty much there's this creek bed, and there's a bridge in the back, our driveway, and I'm building up this island. I actually widened the creek, so originally I wish I had a before and after picture, but this was just half the width, so the creek was really more to the left. And I widened it with help of my neighbor and some friends, and we widened it by like 6 or 7 feet and extended it down for about 50 feet. So yeah, and then have some iconographies, just kind of some Celtic cross, put some bamboo sticks around it for aesthetic appeal, and then built this little island, the little Buddha statue on top of it, a pagoda. I light up that pagoda with little candles, and again, just more junk I find down by the river comes my treasure. Just put these to make kind of some seating areas, but then put these stumps here, and poisonous mushrooms are starting to pop up. So far I've only had 1 morel mushroom pop up, and the others are pretty much just poisonous mushrooms, but definitely get a lot of mushrooms down here. Also, I have this like dam at the end of the creek bed where I can actually plug it up, and it will fill up with water, and have like a little water trickling effect to it. And I put a bunch of rocks here, put some concrete mixed with it to kind of really hold that intact, and more slabs of concrete box things I found, and put them all together, and yeah, it holds together surprisingly. It even survives the flood, so I can actually roll that thing over and then release it and clean up the whole creek bed. And then I could put it back and even plug it up, and yeah, it's a pretty interesting little water feature I have there. So yeah, this is I have some stepping stones pretty much that come across the creek, and this will fill up all the way, and yeah, it'll flood here, and I put all these concrete blocks here, try to fit them together, and yeah, hold the water, and yeah, it looks kind of nice, I think, and it really keeps the water kind of clean, I think, when I rake it out once in a while in the spring or in the fall. Now the main feature of my garden is this island I built up. Now this was the hardest part of actually making this, because it would just constantly erode away, so I had to figure out a way to, hold this soil. Problem was I used sand, so this was what it looked like, when I finished it, and then next spring it turned into this. There was gaps. I filled the gaps in with sand, and all that sand simply just washed away and broke apart. So this time I reinforced it with concrete and sticks, and 100% clay. And with the help of my neighbor, we were able to transport this and finally built the island to look like this. So pretty much all that concrete is like fused together, and all that clay is compacted, and I covered it over with moss, and that moss is doing well. So far there hasn't been a major flood yet. I finished this up last spring I think it was. Yeah, and so yeah, this island I use for camping. I've had cookouts on here, and yeah, sometimes I just sit out here and see if that UFO appears, but no more for an hour, and then I let them out of there, hightailing out. So yeah, normally to get all this stuff transported, these rocks, I just use my trusty Subaru Forester. One time I saw a woodchuck living in my wheel for some reason, so yeah, gotta get him out. And yeah, this is what it looks like in the wintertime, so really beautiful. And it's holding up, it's surviving the normal spring floods, but that last flood, this image I showed you, that was completely just up to, I put that lantern. I'm surprised that lantern stood, but the flood was gradual, I guess, but that lantern was able to stay up there. Lastly, my garden heads out to an open field, and we have to mow this every time, so we're actually considering of turning it into prairie. Part of it is already prairie, so we're considering buying some seeds and laying down some plots of that. And I have these two little stelas, and I'm going to be putting a gate here. Already got part of the gate up. The design I'm thinking of is going to be either this kind of triangle archway, or it's going to be like a ranch style gate, which I think is what my neighbors are actually looking more forward to seeing because they can see it from the road. So yeah, this is the first pole I have in the ground, and then the two poles were not the same heights because prices were different, so we decided to solve that problem by extending the pole's length, just nailing down some boards and making a base for it. And yeah, this is what it looks right now. My neighbors, they actually have a little wood chipping company down by the river, and they carved these jack-o'-lanterns, so it's kind of interesting to see that. So when my gate's done, it'll look really interesting, especially during Halloween. I'll light up the jack-o'-lantern in my garden. It's kind of what it looks like at night, actually. So yeah, it's not totally complete yet, but it should be. Hopefully there's no sinkage happening with the poles, but I think there is on the right hand side, but can't do much about that now. So yeah, this kind of goes out to the field, and we'll probably put a prairie in here. Probably next year. We'll think about it. It kind of costs a lot of money to transform 1 or 2 acres of land into prairie, so and you have to get a permit and burn the field, and either that or till it very well. I also might have 2 limestone blocks that weigh like 2 tons each to be moved next to my gate on either side at the field. Originally they were never moved back by the city when they were putting a sewer pipe through a couple years ago. They were on either side of a driveway, and I think it would be nice to have them next to the gate as kind of like a place to sit on, facing towards the field. Maybe have a little camping area right in front of the gate. But that'll probably be the last thing, since I would have to get a contractor for that, and it's pretty expensive. But maybe these UFOs will move it for me. They can put the cherry on top of the cake. So, because I get the feeling some of these standing stones in Europe, not Stonehenge, but there's some other ones that are more mysterious that seem very out of place and random in their design. But who knows? I'll do a video on that someday. So yeah, I've been also moving some trees, like 11 trees, maples, mulberries, and one birch tree that died, and willows. So I've been moving those, pretty much just aligning them to kind of cover my garden so you don't see them exactly from the road. The only thing you would see is just the gate to show that it's a clear entrance into the garden. So yeah, that's pretty much my garden. I'm into outdoors. I also have some other things, like we have some plum trees on the other side of our house, and some other flowering trees. And yeah, we're next to a river, so I like going canoeing. And so yeah, I'll try to maybe this summer see if I can capture that UFO again on camera, but so far it hasn't allowed me, but we'll see. So yeah, this garden is kind of my inspiration for witnessing that thing in nature that we still don't understand, and we just simply call them UFOs, angels, or demons, or whatever. But the reality is we don't know, and these things are not. They're giving us little hints of time, but so we'll just have to wait and see. And hopefully, maybe when my garden's actually complete, maybe I'd be more willing to actually go into the garden at the time that I have my camera and be allowed to be captured on camera. But right now, it's not allowing me. I only see it about once a year, so. See, that's kind of my inspiration for my garden, so that's why I call it the Unidentified Fairy Garden.